Yep. Good evening, members, officers, members of the public. And I'm sorry for the people watching at home. It's not live broadcast today. We had some technical issue. So we're recording it, and you'll be able to watch it later on. Welcome you to today's planning meeting. Can I ask everybody to put the phones off, please, or put on a silent mode? Okay, item 1, apologies for absence. Bill?
We've had apologies for absence from councillors Gamal Lal and Samina Nagwa, and apologies for lateness from councillor Emma Sidhu.
Thank you. Any more apologies? Nope. Thank you. Item 2 is declaration of interest under the Town Planning Code of Practice. And any other communication from members? Members? Yep. Councillor Luki?
I've been to the Gillette building and been guests of the owners at various times, but nothing, not even a coffee, to be honest. But we'll be visited their premises there and elsewhere.
Yep.
Yes, Chair. Item 5 is in my ward. I've had a number of meetings with the applicant, their representatives, always with officers. Also, I think we've all received the same emails, and on this item we had a presentation, but we're aware of that.
Thank you. Any more? Okay, I have to declare as well. Item 6. When the decision was taken in the cabinet, I was on the cabinet at that time. So I will not be attending that item. So you have to choose the chair again for the item, because vice chair is not in today. Right. Okay, item 3, minutes of the meeting held on 13th of February, 25. Pages 7 to 12. Okay, I'll take accuracy and matter arising at the same time. Yep. Councillor Luki?
Just on the item 5, page 11, whereas on other decisions there was a recording of votes there, and I should have raised it. My apologies to Mr. Lee, but there were results there. The results were 9 in favour, none against, and 2 abstentions, which I was one of them, and so was Councillor Todd.
Yes, we've stopped doing recording of votes, just saying how it went.
What about page 12 then, over the page? When it says 411, I'm not suggesting you put our names down, but you put the score down.
Yeah, we did say how many votes on page 12.
I say sorry, I misunderstood. We are missing the score. Yeah.
That's it.
Sorry.
That's it.
Yeah, apologies for that. That's my fault.
I know I didn't get a name check on a couple of the items here, whereas others did, but I was, I must say, I was.
Yeah, no, apologies for the vote count.
Okay, man. Okay.
My omission, sorry.
Thank you.
Any more issues? Thank you. Agreed? I can sign that? Thank you. Right, item 4, Gillette Building, 101 Sign Lane, Isleworth, pages 13 to 71. How to do Leo Hall?
Yep. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, members, everyone. Yeah, I think it's showing on the screen. So yeah, welcome. This application relates to the Gillette site, the former factory site, and its wider kind of site. So it's a 4.4 hectare piece of industrial land just to the north of the Gillette Corner Junction. I'm sure a lot of people will be familiar with the site already. It's kind of an iconic piece on the Golden Mile. So the site itself contains the existing Gillette factory building, which was the former headquarters of Gillette, and it's towards the western end of the Golden Mile. And the rest of the site is occupied by warehouse buildings, the former NatWest Bank, and a series of other kind of structures and hard standing. The site is bounded by Great West Road to the south, Scion Lane to the southwest, and Grant Way and Sky Campus to the north and northwest. Harlequin Avenue lies to the east. Part of this site has been in use as a film studios, which is a sort of equivalent to the use currently proposed since 2013, so approximately 12 years. So the site itself, it falls within a strategic industrial location, industrial business park, and is allocated in both the 2015 local plan and the emerging 2021 to 2041 local plan. Both of those allocations carry weight in the assessment of this application. The current local plan allocation, which is site allocation 7, is for proposes the retention of existing buildings around the site, and the continued use of that site for industrial purposes, which fall within class EG of the use class order, which primarily relates to industrial processes, research and development, and high-value industrial land. And the new local plan review allocation proposes a mixed-use scheme of 240 residential units, 920 square metres of retail floor space, and 47,640 square metres of flexible industrial floor space. So that's more of a mixed-use scheme anticipated for the site. There are 3 main Grade 2 listed structures on the site. The first being obviously the main Gillette factory building, which is a 4-storey brick-clad building fronting Scion Lane with the iconic central clock tower. The second main listed building on the site is the NatWest building, which is the former bank. It's a single to 2-storey brick building fronting Great West Road. And then the third listed structure is a set of 4 lamp structures, lamp standards, which are situated outside the main entrance of the former Gillette factory. Sorry, the photographs are quite small. I probably should have been a little less ambitious with that, but hopefully you can see that, and yeah, hopefully people will be quite familiar with the site anyway. Other nearby heritage assets include the Grade 2 listed former Coty factory, now Scion Clinic, 70 metres to the southeast of the site. There's also the St Francis of Assisi Church and Westlink House, which both Grade 2 listed within 500 metres of the site. The wider area also includes a number of designated heritage assets, including Osterley Park, registered historic park and garden containing Grade 1 listed Osterley House, and obviously Scion Park as well, a Grade 1 registered historic park and garden. There are a number of conservation areas in the wider area within 0.5 kilometres of the site. So yeah, those are obviously in the long distance views. The site is currently accessed and serviced primarily via the existing entrance onto Scion Lane to the southwest of the site. But there are further accesses on Great West Road and Harlequin Avenue. I think in total there are 7 main accesses to the site, and some sort of supplemental smaller accesses. There are on the site at the moment there are 413 car parking spaces, so that's the existing situation, and there are also spaces within the site for operational parking and manoeuvring. The site itself is in it's in the public transport accessibility level area of 2, so it's a fairly poor level of public transport accessibility. However, it is served by several key bus routes, and Scion Lane Station is located within 200 metres of the site. Osterley Station is also within 2 kilometres of the site by walk. The entire site is within flood zone 1, so low risk of surface water flooding. It's also qualifies as an industrial history site, so there's some risk of contamination, which obviously has to be factored in to the decision. So just moving on to the proposals, if we just want to flick through to that. So on the screen now you can see the site as it currently is. So the main Gillette building is to the sort of southwest of that image, towards the bottom of it. Then there's the buildings along Harlequin Avenue, and the car park, the existing car park, which is a single-storey building that's on the north of the site. So the proposal is for heritage-led development, which involves the creation of a new film studio specialising in virtual production, film and digital content creation. Associated facilities such as sound stages, offices and workshops are proposed. A public cafe is also proposed within the NatWest building. And a multi-storey, six-storey employee car park is also proposed at the north of the site in the same location as the existing car park. As part of the proposals, there would be a demolition of a number of outdated and redundant existing buildings. So these comprise I think there's actually so this demolition plan, I think, shows them. So they include the old mould shop, the Caxton building, Van Matic building, the northern wing of the Campbell's building, and the existing car park building as well. All of those structures and associated outbuildings would be demolished as part of the proposals to facilitate. And in addition to that, there are several buildings which would be retained and refurbished and extended as well. So those include the Gillette building itself, the IPF building, which is the large one on Harlequin Avenue, and the NatWest building as well, which obviously would be converted to the cafe, and the front south wing of the Campbell's building, which will be retained and added to. So those are the sort of buildings that are going to be modified. In addition to that, the engineer's house to the front of the site next to the main access off Scion Lane is going to be retained without modification, so that's not changing. And then in addition to those, a series of new buildings would be proposed to replace those being demolished. One of them would be in the centre of the Gillette building within the courtyard, so that's a set of 2 new sound stages there. There'd be more sound stages there as well. So sound stages 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, and 9, the new ones. The new buildings would vary in height and materiality, but largely speaking, they would be industrial in character, so metal clad with kind of warehouse roofs. The average height of the soundstage buildings would be 19.5 metres or 42.9 AOD. So the car park would be the tallest element in the site. It has been reduced by 3 stories over the course of the application process, but the height of that would be 26 metres from ground level, so 48.9 AOD. Which something that's welcomed is the fact that 71% of the current floor space is being retained, so that's a good thing. And obviously those buildings being demolished, reuse of materials is being proposed and promoted as far as possible in line with circular economy principles and whole life cycle carbon principles as well. In terms of the colour palette, it would be primarily a grey metal cladding, but it has been articulated on the various frontages to soften that the sort of visual bulk of those buildings. In addition to that, there would be brickwork, so there would be sort of metal cladding above the Campbell's building, which would be of a sort of rusty colour. So that would blend with the existing brickwork. And then hard landscaping around the site would be mainly aggregate tarmac with clay brick and concrete stone paving for footways. Just to focus briefly on the listed building works, just so members are aware of all of what's actually proposed through the listed building consent. The work's obviously limited to the 2 listed buildings, the Gillette factory and the NatWest building. In respect of the Gillette building, the primary goal would be to refurbish and add thermal upgrading to the building. So that involves things like new internal secondary glazing and insulation, a new roof being installed on the Gillette building, and new circulation cores as well. All sensitive works that would maintain the lifespan of the building, and those would be used to transform it to an office space and supporting space for the film studios. So that would be intention. There wouldn't be actual filming going on in those spaces. Access into and throughout the building would be improved with the new circulation entrances and exits. So that's obviously all positive improvements for the building. It's worth noting that a fair bit of the internal fabric has been, it's sort of been worn away over the years, and I think with the previous proposal, the previous consent for the site, which was for a hotel, works were done and carried out at the building, which did involve some fabric removal, so that's already been done. So the actual scope here is to actually just improve the building with a very light touch. So 2 sound stages within the existing courtyard of the building, new mechanical electrical systems as well, and new on-site renewables in the way of PV on the existing and proposed roofs. The NatWest building, quite minor changes, a new ramp and modified window to create a level access to that building. And then just refurbishing the internal timber cladding and the light fittings, which are the main historic features really in that building. To move on to, I think, one of the main kind of points for discussion, which is parking and access. So 413 car parking spaces are proposed in the this amended application. So that's down from, I think, 500 plus spaces at the point of submission. So that's resulted in a 3-story reduction to the car park. That matches the existing situation as well. So the 413 already on site. 10% of those spaces would be blue badge, 20% would be electric vehicle ready, and then there will be 56 further operational bays for light goods vehicles on the site, in the middle of the site, 20 spaces for heavy goods vehicles, and 8 motorcycle bays as well. 6 of the blue badge bays would be located to the front of the main Gillette factory, so to allow for accessible arrivals there, and alongside 4 loading bays. So that's the parking arrangements. 206 long stay cycle parking spaces are proposed, and 48 short stay spaces are also proposed. And an improved provision has been secured through the application process to improve the number of Sheffield stands. Full details of that provision will be secured by condition. Access arrangements around the site would be enhanced. So currently on Scion Lane, that's obviously going to be the main ongoing access to the site for all modes of transport. So that includes servicing, HGVs, and everything else. The 2 secondary accesses that you can see on this map here, which are to the front of the sort of main entrance of Gillette factory, those are going to be closed off to vehicles. So it's only going to be pedestrian and cyclist access there. So those vehicular accesses onto Scion Lane are going to be closed off, and the footway reinstated. In respect of Great West Road, there's currently 1 access onto that road. That's going to be closed for standard vehicle access, with only emergency vehicle access allowed there, and in addition to pedestrian and cyclist access. So that's going to be an improvement on that frontage. There'll be 2 further pedestrian access points along the Great West Road frontage, which can be seen with the green arrows on the diagram. And then lastly, for Harlequin Avenue, the 2 main access points are going to be retained, while 3 further vehicular access points would be removed and the curb reinstated, so to allow for a more legible footway along that road. The footway would be resurfaced and levelled. The crossovers would obviously improve the removal of crossovers would help to improve that character. There would be a new art-themed pedestrian crossing installed on Harlequin Avenue, and then there would be a series of planting and facade improvements as well, which would all help to improve the character of Harlequin Avenue and its credentials as a pedestrian through route. along with the crossovers as well would be flush with the level of the pavement, so there would be no sort of access issues in terms of stepping down and up. So that's obviously a welcome improvement. A safeguarded route from Harlequin Avenue to Grant Way would be safeguarded for future. That's right at the top of the site, just above the multi-storey car park. So that's not being provided at this stage, but it's a safeguarded route in the event that, you know, it's needed in future. Then, so just to focus quickly on the car parking, so that's been reduced from over 20,000 square metres down to 13,000 square metres, down to 413 spaces from the 517 originally proposed. While the provision does not meet the London Plan requirements for this opportunity area, which are very low, the figure does match the existing baseline, and it's considered to be acceptable overall for a building with such high employment figures as this one, subject to mitigation measures which have been sort of discussed and would be finalised through the legal agreement and the obligations associated with that. Including further modelling of the site before any of the new buildings were occupied. So that can be, we'll go into a bit more detail about that afterwards, but waste and recycling would be managed fully on site with sufficient provisions and space for all skips as well, which are going to be for the larger waste on site. A finalised delivery and servicing plan would be secured by an obligation to ensure that full details, including a management strategy, were forthcoming. And full details of the waste and recycling provision in general will be secured by condition to demonstrate compliance with relevant guidelines. So just to be clear, an objection was received from Transport for London, and that objection has, strictly speaking, been maintained. However, work and progress has been made over the course of the application process to overcome and address as many of those TfL objections as possible. Some of those objections were also shared by Sky, who also submitted a sort of an objection on the basis of transport issues. Over the course of the discussions, we kind of considered mitigation measures and the option for further modelling as well to be committed to, which will hopefully go some way to overcoming those concerns. The initial modelling was undertaken, but it wasn't agreed with by TfL, so further modelling in line with TfL's preferred approach would be undertaken prior to occupation of any of the studio buildings. The applicant obviously has significantly reduced the number of parking spaces since the original submission, which is to the existing baseline of 413 spaces. And then, the results of the modelling would then inform the measures that would be used to manage the use of the car parking spaces in the future, with the aim of discouraging peak hour usage. So via a variety of measures. Which can be finalised through the course of the Section 106 negotiations. A car parking management plan would also be secured alongside a travel plan by obligation, obviously that would provide more details on that. Additional measures proposed to encourage use of sustainable transport modes, such as sustainable travel vouchers for employees, financial contributions for local bus services, and sign lane station improvements, and also towards pedestrian and cycling infrastructure improvements would also be proposed around the site itself. So that's all that on the transport side of things. In respect of design and heritage, so while there would be some identified less than substantial harm to the Grade 2 listed Gillette factory, Historic England have alleged that this is because of the modest harm to its visual dominance and landmark character, because of the visibility of the sound stages 6 and 7 behind that roofline. Officers consider that this is outweighed by the significant benefit of bringing back the empty listed building into active use, and the overall visual amenity and design improvements and landscaping around the site, which will obviously enhance the setting of that listed building, the set of listed buildings. Historic England haven't objected formally to the application, that harm does obviously need to be considered, but it is considered to be outweighed by the benefits of the scheme. in terms of then to move on to landscaping and biodiversity briefly. So landscaping and greening enhancements are proposed site-wide. The urban greening factor proposed of 4.8% is below the. It does fall short of the London plan target. However, there isn't a requirement for industrial buildings of this type to actually deliver that. So any gains are welcomed and will obviously improve the greening credentials of the site. But it is worth noting that they're not required by policy. Also there is limited potential to expand the greening further, purely because of the logistical arrangement of the site, the fact that there is a need for this operational hard standing to the centre of the site. So the only real areas for kind of realistic greening are towards the boundaries of the site, and that is where they are going to be the most positive in terms of their impact on the quality of public realm. So the main greening elements are around the perimeters of the site, and there have been significant improvements to that over the course of the application discussions, especially to the front of the Gillette building and on Harlequin Avenue. The biodiversity net gain is proposed of 28.47% in area habitat units. 4 existing trees on the site would be retained. That's all of the trees on site. 16 new trees would be planted as well. So that would be a net gain, alongside a series of biodiversity improvements for the site. In terms of sustainability on site, there will be a 72% reduction of site-regulated carbon emissions. This would be achieved largely through energy-efficient fabric and design, air source and ground source heat pumps, and PV arrays on a variety of the buildings. An offset payment would be secured by a legal obligation to cover the remaining emissions, not offset on site. BREEAM Excellent would be targeted in both the refurbished and new parts of the development, which is good. And the scheme as a whole would follow circular economy and reuse of materials principles to ensure the most sustainable scheme possible. In terms of employment, so while the final employment figures aren't known at this stage until the end user is established, it is estimated that up to 801 construction phase jobs would be delivered by the scheme, in addition to 3,400 approximately in additional permanent jobs. So a significant employment generator for the area. That would include the developer has aspired to delivering 1,430 for residents of London Borough of Hounslow. So that's a sort of approximately half of the provision, just under half of the provision would be anticipated to go towards Hounslow residents. In terms of the construction phase jobs, those would be advertised through a variety of different platforms, through JCP, Work Hounslow, the brokerage team, social media platforms, and the London Borough of Hounslow communications team, among others. There would be an employment and training scheme to be agreed 3 months prior to commencement, and the developer would be expected to offer work experience opportunities with an end goal of offering jobs and apprenticeships to those who successfully complete that programme. 54 apprenticeships would be targeted. These would be advertised at colleges, Work Hounslow, and local training providers. And then in terms of the end use phase, those jobs would be advertised in similar areas, and at recruitment events. A meet the buyer event would be set up to provide the opportunity for local supply chain to bid for contracts on the development site, and the developer would be introduced after the subject to a grant of permission to the school's partnership team manager to provide insight sessions for students and promote awareness of the film and digital sector in general, to hopefully boost the amount of Hounslow residents getting involved in the sector. There would also be dedicated internship and apprenticeship opportunities for residents with special educational needs. So a quota would be retained for that purpose, and for those with disabilities as well. The council would be able to assist in the delivery of that. And if there were no uptake or applicants in any given year, those jobs would be offered to other applicants. So, in conclusion, the scheme would cause. Well, it does have the issues of less than substantial harm to the Grade 2 listed former Gillette factory. So obviously that does have to be given weight, and some weight also has to be given to the inadequacies in some of the transport submissions for the scheme, and given in light of the TfL objection. However, I think efforts have been undertaken throughout the application process to alleviate a lot of those concerns, and it is considered at this stage that, subject to conditions and obligations, and the various contributions set out in the addendum report, that, given that and the many benefits of the scheme, the many public benefits of the scheme in terms of restoring three listed structures back into use, the jobs and economic benefits, the visual amenity and public realm benefits, and the delivery of a public cafe, and the cultural and regeneration benefits in general for this area, which is in a creative enterprise zone, and a focal point in the Great West Corridor. It is recommended that the application is overall acceptable, and that planning permission and listed building consent will be granted. It is worth noting briefly that the finalised wordings and figures of the conditions and obligations would be secured, would be negotiated further after the subject to a resolution to grant. This would be intended to be delegated to the Director of Planning and Buildings. So just to make clear that that's the case, that there are those ongoing discussions that need to be held to agree those finalised wordings and terms, in consultation with Transport for London in the case of the transport obligations. So yeah, thank you for listening, and if there are any other questions, please do ask.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
Open for questions, members. Councillor John Stoddart.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. I mean, obviously a quite exciting development, turning what's an iconic building in the borough into something that's hopefully going to provide a real resource and be a magnet for further development. But you laboured the transport thing. I'm quite interested in it, because unless I've got my maths wrong, I'm struggling with it a little bit. So on site, if you add up all the parking spaces for cars, EVs, disabled, all the bike spaces, long and short term, and the motorbike spaces, you come up with just over 850 parking spaces or bike spaces. It's 867,
Okay.
or thereabouts. And there are going to be 3,404 people working there. How do the other 2,500 get to work? Because Sion Station is quite a small station. The service is infrequent. And as you'll be aware, to get round this particular problem, their next door neighbour, Sky, runs shuttle buses from the nearest tube station, which is Gunnersbury. That station is already one of the unsafest stations on the network and totally maxed out. So any way that how are they going to get the other 2,500 people into work? And noting that on filming days, you're going to see a 14%, if I recall, uplift in people coming, which is about another 500 people. That's a heck of a lot of people to get onto that site from one small station, which even at rush hour only has 3 trains per hour, which only come from Waterloo. So if you're not coming from Waterloo, you're coming from elsewhere in London, and you're relying on public transport. I just got a horrible feeling they're going to replicate the Sky activity and start putting shuttle buses on, and that's already maxing out an incredibly overcrowded station. Are we talking to them about this? How are we getting? Tell me if I've got my maths wrong.
No. I mean, it's a valid observation. I think. I mean, it's probably worth pointing out that it's anticipated that a large number of the employees will be Hounslow residents, and will probably be. We would hope that they would be more local, and therefore would ease the strain on the sort of wider railway network. But I think it's worth pointing out that as part of the application, we would be securing quite a considerable sum of money towards bus improvement contributions, and also to the subway as well, which will improve the overall approach to the site, and also to Cyan Lane station itself. So that's quite a considerable amount of money being put towards that, and also to pedestrian and cycling infrastructure around the site in general. Obviously, yeah, it will depend on the exact flows to and from the site and the timings, but it is. I think overall we've considered that the approach to and from the site is going to be okay. I mean, I don't know, Rob, if you wanted to clarify anything else, but
yeah, if I can maybe just add a little bit. I mean, there's 3,400 jobs proposed for the site. As far as I'm aware, they wouldn't all be on site at the same time, but the transport assessment does indicate that the arrivals and departures will be spread over the 3 hour, particularly over the 3 hour peak in the morning, and a more sort of graduated dispersal in the PM peak. But so they're not all arriving at the same time, which obviously, as you raised, would cause concern. And obviously TfL have, well, both my colleagues and TfL have reviewed the planning, the transport assessment and the trip generation assessment, and there is some further work to do on that in terms of the traffic impact. But TfL, as Leo said, TfL have requested a £1.1 million contribution towards bus improvements. There is a contribution towards the West London Orbital as well as the public rail and the cycle improvements contributions as well. So, yeah, and the traffic model, the further work that is required on the traffic modelling will determine what measures will be required to manage traffic at those times. And
I suppose the real point is my worry about Gunnersbury Station, because if they fall back on the solution that Sky uses, which is shuttle buses from there, Gunnersbury Station will not cope with those. It virtually doesn't cope. You know Gunnersbury Station, it doesn't cope already. It is utterly maxed. Therefore, we need something to stop that happening. They cannot rely, if all their people are, if the 2,500 who are coming by public transport, yes, they don't all arrive together, but neither the Sky people. They arrive over a 2 or 3 hour period. But if they all start coming via Gunnersbury, that station will cease to work. No matter, and it needs significant investment. It needs another platform. It needs a bunch of money throwing into it before it's even close to being sustainable. My big concern is that you're going to have buses for whoever this is backing up with the Sky buses, which are already. If you see the Sky people, they queue about 5 deep across the pavement at Gunnersbury. We can't have that. There needs to be something in there to stop that happening, because it will become a major safety point on Gunnersbury Station.
So maybe just briefly, I mean, it obviously doesn't form part of the proposal, and I would want, if there are, through monitoring of the travel plan and the car park management plan, I would want to look at securing alternative measures rather than introducing a bus service. We don't really want. We'd rather people run the public buses, on the TfL buses, using the TfL public transport network, so the benefits are general to the public. Yeah, so the TfL have reviewed what the public transport assessment, trip generation assessment, and have concluded that they need an extra bus service, so hence the contribution.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yep, Councillor Todd.
Yeah, a very good presentation and a very exciting scheme, really exciting. But the format of the report is very unusual, where you simply drop in one paragraph saying TfL are not happy. Nothing in the report until we get a supplementary of 40-odd pages. And there's some pretty chunky meat in the TfO 6-page letter, by way of example. Not providing data in the format requested and the complexity of traffic lights. But what I'm concerned about is we have to listen to these views. They form a view that you normally give as a house view. I'm reassured, I'm just speaking aloud almost, I'm reassured that you've addressed a lot of the issues which appear in the supplementary report. But what happens when you get to an impasse if you get an impasse with TfL? And secondly, I note the GLA leader has got to approve this. I'd like to give the opportunity to respond to those observations.
Yes, so I think it's worth noting that obviously the position that's been formally recorded in the committee report is TfL's last formal objection. So that was from about a month and a half ago. February, I think it was. That was at a point where I think discussions had stalled a little bit between the applicant and TfL. There was a lot of points of disagreement and things weren't moving forward particularly well. Subsequent to that, we did have a very productive meeting with between the two parties where I think they both realised that some ground had to be given and there had to be some concessions made. And I think that was positive and it resulted in a good dialogue in following on from that, which has continued and which we hope will continue post-committee. And I think, you know, the applicant has conceded on certain things, such as agreeing to undertake the VISIM modelling prior to any of those new buildings being occupied. I think that's going to be quite important. And then looking at the outcomes of that and looking at ways of what measures will need to be put in place to mitigate the impact, and other things like the reduction in the car parking spaces. Other different things have come out of that process, and also agreements to put money into contributions for the bus improvements, for the railway improvements, and also the various mitigation measures, and their agreement to secure a car park management plan as well by the obligation, which will have a lot of detail on how car parking will be discouraged and the sustainable modes of transport promoted. In terms of, if those discussions did stall later down the line, I mean, we would obviously hope that wouldn't happen. And we, based on the discussions that we have had, we don't think that that's a likely scenario. So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Boring.
Thank you, Chair. Rob, I wonder if you could just weigh in on the number of car parking spaces and the disparity with the London plan and that whole thing.
Yeah, I think the issue here, Councillor Barring, is the London plan for outer London opportunity areas. The London plan has a generic figure for car parking, and it is a very low figure. So I think in areas, they recognise that although the level that's being provided doesn't accord with the London plan figure, this is an area that has a fairly low PTAL level. So for me, they need to recognise the fact that providing that to accord with London plan, I think, is impractical. So TfL are aware of the figure that's being proposed. So I think, yeah, not much more I can say.
Are you satisfied with the figure of 413 spaces?
That's the figure that's been proposed, and obviously it accords with what's there at the moment on site. We will see what we've obviously got more work to do on. Or the applicant has more work to do on the traffic modelling, just to make sure that the traffic generation does not have a significant impact at this particular location. But there are safeguards within the Section 106 agreement, the proposed Section 106 agreement, that, as Leo has said, would seek to minimise use of the car park at peak times if required. So I think that obligation is in there, and of the obligations that are in there to control the use of the car park. Acceptable.
All right, Councillor Lukic.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sky also take buses to Osterley, much to the disappointment of people on Jersey Road, but and they are managed. I mean, in terms of Sky, Sky have always wanted. I mean, they've got massive car parks as it is, as we know. If this goes ahead, is approved with the parking sought by this applicant for Gillette, what would the why are Sky objecting? Basically, tell us why. at the moment. You can tell us that in a sec. It seems to have dropped off the it seems to have dropped off the agenda lately. When we were down at the GSK building being shown round by Hadley Group, a person showing us around didn't even know about the proposed Southall rail link. Where are we with that? How can we get, if that's the case, how can we get people from this site to Southall station for the Crossrail? And that's kind of been dropped off. That's kind of dropped off as well. Even though, as you know, Rob, we were asking TfL for buses down Cyan Lane, Windmill Lane, Tenterlow Lane to the Southall station, which is a feasible thing. But they're not coming back to us. So out of this £1 million we're talking about, you know, how close are we going to get to an accessible Crossrail? Without going through too much traffic as they're proposing for the to extend the E1 there, which we've been told is not going to happen until your friends, our friends, or somebody's friends, not my friends, Berkeley, develop home base with a bus stop miles away down the Great West Road. So how are we going to improve it in that respect? How are we going to let people understand that this development will, you know, the filming doesn't happen on a 9 to 5 basis. Some of it, you know, there'll be deadlines, and some of it will go on through the night as well. So how would that be? How would that parking? Shut up. How would that parking fit in? In fact, it would probably make it easier to park there if they're operating throughout the day rather than a 9 to 5. If you can tell us about that. Tell us about the yeah. So just a couple more, and then they can answer me in one.
Let the officer answer these questions, then you can come back.
Okay,
Yeah?
then it's all transport, Chair.
Oh, go carry on then. On transport there.
All right. So we've got good to see the surface level pavements on Harlequin Avenue. Are we going to get a good surface on the carriageway as well? That's messed up, and it has been for a long time. But you know, how can we encourage that? I'll get complaints from Sky. I don't want to start getting complaints as a ward councillor from Vinyl Factory and their clients, their customers. The frontage, you're going to block off. Looking at blocking off the that carriageway, that drop into the front of the building there between the cherub lanterns. Is that so? That's going to be greened, is it? It's going to be dug up and planted as it has been, and it'll be an amenity area to continue on with the other two amenity areas there. And then finally, what community use have we got here? What's being proposed there? What's being offered to residents of Austin Spring Grove Ward and other people that work on the Great West Road? Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Yep. Leo. Okay.
Yeah, do you want me to take the transport ones first? Hopefully I'll cover everything. Councillor Luke, please remind me if I miss anything. I think the Sky objection is set out in the report on page 22. So it's essentially to do with the traffic modelling, and that is the basis. It's the same concerns that are similar concerns to TfL, and hence why we have these Section 106 obligations requiring the applicant to undertake traffic modelling in accordance with TfL requirements. So, sorry, the second question was about the Southall rail link. So that is still under development by the council. It's still looking at options for that. But the public transport contributions for this application are focused on the bus improvements, short-term bus improvements, and the WLO, which is more advanced than Brentford Southall proposal. We are talking to TfL. We have regular conversations with TfL about buses and bus links up to Southall. So you mentioned the route from up Tenterlow Lane and up to Southall. Very much having still under discussion with TfL to try and deliver that. The access, the greening, the access. I think that is those accesses will be closed. Both accesses will be closed. And I think there's a condition that says, or it'd be Section 106 agreement that says that they will be the curbs removed and curbs reinstated, and the detail can be to be agreed. But I would envisage, as you say, that they would be the verge would be extended across those to provide a green area, and then you would have pedestrian and cycle access. Harlequin Avenue carriageway, I think you mentioned as well. Obviously, again, there's no Section 106 obligation in that, but I can raise that again with Hounslow Highways in terms of resurfacing, and any construction damage would be required to be reinstated and repaired by the applicant or their contractors, and that's a standard requirement under construction logistics plan. But it's unlikely, it would be unlikely that any work takes place before construction because of the impact of construction vehicles.
Just to follow up on the objection from Sky, so I think primarily the objection is based on the impact on Harlequin Avenue and Scion Lane in terms of vehicles stacking up and things like that. And I think a lot of their concerns were shared with TfL. And I think to the same extent, a lot of those concerns have now been sort of mitigated or overcome through the measures that have now been agreed subsequent to those objections coming in. So in terms of, for instance, the VISIM modelling, which has now been committed to being done, that was one of their primary objections there. So obviously, I think a lot of it hangs on that. So obviously, the modelling will show what the status is at the time when they want to actually erect those buildings and carry it out, and then various mitigation measures, the extent to which will obviously depend on the outcomes of the modelling, but those mitigation measures can then be refined and considered to hopefully overcome those concerns as far as possible. Obviously, Sky do have access to Scion Lane via Grant Way, which is their own sort of dedicated access. There are things that they could probably do within, the confines of their site to kind of moderate parking and traffic impacts around the area as well. I think that the proposed development would not exacerbate that in such a way that would be, subject to those mitigation measures being put in place. Sorry, did you want to add something, or no? Should I continue on to the other answers? Yeah. Just in terms of the front of the site, I think you mentioned briefly about those two accesses being closed. Yes, so the intention would be to landscape those areas. I think there's on the presentation there was a landscaping plan. So there would be dwelling spaces right next to the front door of the Gillette factory, which would have planting and integrated seating there. The surface along the front would be shared surface, so obviously not people speeding along or anything like that. Then there'd be new planting. There's already the planting buffer that's along Scion Lane, which is those pockets with trees and stuff. That's sort of outside the site boundary, so there won't be much, like there'll be a limited strip of landscaping directly on the boundary, but then there will be further landscaping right next to the building. So it's probably most clearly seen on the landscaping plan. But they have maximised tree planting, landscaping along that frontage, and biodiversity and points for sitting around as well. So hopefully that's welcomed. In terms of the community benefit, So obviously there's the community cafe. I think that's going to be the main community outlet for the site. That is going to be publicly accessible. There may be some scope for events that the film studios might want to sort of hire it out every now and then. So there might be certain times where it's restricted, but the intention is to have a sort of a cafe that's open to the public and open to the community, and welcomes people to that part of the site. Unfortunately, because of the quite secure nature of the use, and the fact that there's a lot of confidentiality around filming, there won't be many opportunities for people to visit and enter the site. To actually come and see the site. I think it's not proposed that there's going to be sort of regular tours or open days, or I don't think at this stage.
All right, it wasn't so much that, it was other, you know, when we were, when this was being sold to us, there was more than an implication, it was almost explicit that the former bank would be available for public access, community access. So it's good to see that. When we talk about the boundary treatment, I was talking about outside the site. The part of Cyan Lane outside the site where you have got that crossover in from opposite the shops.
I see. Sorry.
Yeah. So is that going to be closed? Is that going to be closed and landscaped? And if it's not, I'd like that to be closed and landscaped, rather than it being almost like a no man's land or an ad hoc parking space or a taxi drop-off point.
Yeah, that would be my intention. There would need to be a Section 278 agreement for the highway works. So, yeah, obviously I agree. We wouldn't want it to be used. I've seen it being used as a parking space. So yeah, we would want the curbs reinstated and not to be inaccessible by vehicles. So, yeah, if that's greeting, yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions? No? Would you like to add anything to Leo? Okay, it's open for debate. Members? Yep.
I don't mind kicking off. I mean, the things that have been mentioned are the important things to, there aren't many objections to this locally, and I think people would, it is the old lady of Osterley, is the Gillette building. The other one was knocked down by Thatcher's friends in the 80s, Firestone Factory. But it is one that's, I think residents are very supportive of this development, but subject to minimising the traffic impacts, or minimising them by finding a good way of mitigating them, and improving the traffic, because any improvement of traffic for these people's site will improve traffic for our residents. In terms of putting buses onto stations, that can only be a good thing. And the issue is mainly, I would think, is late night activity, how much it might impact us. But generally it's supported. Bringing the site into use, it'll improve it would help improve the local economy. I would say, but also somewhere that we would be proud of in Osterley and Spring Grove Ward.
Thank you, Tony. Any more? Yeah, Councillor Boring.
Yeah, so there's one or two niggles with this, but I'm confident that officers are going to continue to work it out. But I think it's just important to state this is against the backdrop of the huge economic and cultural benefit that this brings, and that's a massive thing that can't be overlooked, as well as ensuring a local landmark is restored and protected into the future. So, yeah, I'm in favour of this.
Okay. Councillor Todd.
I don't know whether it's too premature to recommend approval, Chair.
Okay, so it's been proposed by Councillor John Todd and seconded by Councillor John Strouter. We'll take the votes for the proposal, please. Yeah, sorry, hold on.
I've raised issues that may not have been considered in this in terms of section 278 on the or 78, whatever section you want to call it, of the Highways Act. But that's got to be in there as well. It's not all just confined to the site, but that should be a section 1016 because it was previously an access point to the site there. We can include that.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Luke, just to confirm, that's the landscaped area on Sign Lane, and it's taking the accesses out and greening those and putting landscaping in. Just so I'm clear.
Yeah,
It's those
opposite-
two accesses. Yeah.
Opposite numbers 40 to about 46 Sign Lane. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's in the section in the recommendation.
All right, thank you. That has been proposed and seconded. I'll take a vote for the proposal. Count, yeah. Anybody against? No? Abstention? So it's been approved. by
For
how
the
many votes?
record, that's unanimous.
Apart from,
Chair.
yeah. Councillor Sidhu couldn't vote because she
Yeah,
joined us a
sorry.
bit late. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
10 votes for, 1 ineligible. Sorry, councillor.
so this application has been approved. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, but the applications are recommended for approval, subject to the conditions, the completion of section 106.
So there's two recommendations at the end.
Yeah.
One is for planning permission, the other one's for listed building consent. So we would be able to vote the listed building consent as well.
Okay, so you want to,
Okay, does that make sense, sorry? So
yeah, take a vote on that as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody listen to heard that? We'll take a second vote, yeah? Can you explain that, please?
Sorry, Councillor. So just to be clear, there are two recommendations in front of you tonight. One is for planning approval. The second is for listed building consent. So I think the implication is that you have agreed to approve the planning application. So we're asking for a second vote on the listed building consent, if that makes sense. Thank you. Sorry, no, yeah, it's two recommendations.
Okay, yeah? You're proposing it? Seconded, Councillor Sim? Okay, take a vote for the proposal, please. Yep. Same.
And once again, we have 10 for, none against, no abstentions, and 1 sadly ineligible.
So it's been approved. Thank you for your contributions, members. Okay? All right. So item 5 is Madison House, Commerce Road, Brentford, pages 72 to 100, and it's Zara. Yep. All yours, Zara, right?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. This is the 5th item on agenda. The application site is Manderson House, TW8 8LF. The section 73 is for variation of the consented scheme. In 2023, the proposal is to change condition 2, 8, 12, and 22 of the consented scheme in order to comply with the compulsory requirements of the Building Safety Act in respect of fire safety. These amendments propose minor changes to the permitted scheme for a mixed-use development in terms of proposed homes, the number of homes remaining as the consented scheme as 111 homes. The housing mix will be changed, increase the number of 2 beds and decrease in the number of 1 bed. The number of 2 and 3 beds are the same as the consented scheme. The consented scheme had 27% affordable homes, and this scheme now proposes 0 affordable homes on site with a financial contribution of 1.2 million. The scheme has been viability tested. Within the consented scheme, a deficit of 300,000 was identified, and it was agreed. Within this Section 73 application, the deficit would be the same. Therefore, the scheme should have the same position as the consented scheme. Changes to non-residential spaces are minor changes to the footprint of the commercial spaces in order to provide the second staircases. These minor changes do not change the numbers of employment in comparison with the approved scheme, but with increased flexibility of users, it could help and expected to lead the better of level of occupancy in future. The main impact on transport is only on the number of cycle parking spaces for residential units, which would be in line with London Plan recommendation. The scheme will still be a car-free scheme with 3 blue badges based on site, 3 residential visitor car parking spaces, and 2 car club spaces, which are the same as the approved scheme. The amenity spaces are increased by 32 square meters for more green spaces, which is regarded as a benefit of this Section 73. We can see the location of these increased open spaces later in one of the slides. Changes to commercial layout are kind of shown on this slide, and it is due to the second staircases. This is the proposed mezzanine level. This slide is residential layout, which has been changed to accommodate the new staircases. This slide and the next 2 slides shows the changes to the elevation. Most of these changes are due to the changes to reconfiguration of windows, doors, and provision of additional balconies. And the same of this one. This slide shows the changes to the amenity space, and it's pointed where it has the circle red lines showing that how it has been changed and increased. This is the proposed communal open space, showing the layout of open spaces and the play spaces. This is an CGI showing from the Commerce Road looking to the south. This is another CGI from Commerce Road looking to the north. And this is a 3D CGI. The scheme would be consistent with the objectives of the development plan to deliver housing and employment space. The scheme would not provide affordable homes on site, but is supported by viability testing and would make payment of 1.2 million towards off-site affordable home in the borough. On balance, the scheme would deliver public benefits to economic and social and environment well-being of the area, providing a significant amount of much-needed new homes, which aligns with the special policies of the Hounslow Council and also NPPF, and recommended for approval. End of my presentation.
Thank you, Sarah. Questions from members? Okay, Councillor Luki.
And just on this, taking away the affordable element, how did that come about, and why are we entertaining this? We're taking £40,000 per unit No doubt increasing the value of the rest of the development or the development without. How long has this been discussed? This is a troublesome site. This is one we've had some arguments over in the past when it came here. But why are we entertaining this and taking away? Don't they want? I suppose the developers don't want social housing, affordable housing in the place.
With the application, it has been submitted viability assessment and it has been reviewed by the third party. So from the assessment, it shows that the position of the proposal has not changed. So there was a deficit of £300,000 previously, and it has a surplus of about £913,000 with this scheme. Considering that there is a kind of not interest for RP providers to be on site for affordable homes, our housing team reviewed everything, and the assessment was they are agreed with to be paid as a financial contribution off-site.
Yeah, I understand that. Is this going to be index linked until we're able to apply it to another scheme that's coming up? Otherwise, if we have £1 million, it reminds me of some other development where we had £1 million in the borough and it's not been spent. Wasn't part of this. Wasn't part of an affordable housing scheme. It was part of an affordable housing scheme, but it was just a payment to the owners of the site, a charity. But will this still be worth £1 million odd pounds? Or was it 1.2 million? Will it still be worth 1.2 million when it's going to be index linked, when it's going to be applied and used? Matthew, you might know.
So yeah, it'll be
I know the answer.
It'll be index linked. That would be part of the Section 106 agreement. They're all index linked, and ultimately the money will be put towards the council's house building programme. So our officers in the housing team are currently discussing what it could be put towards should the scheme be put into place.
We've got some schemes lined up, have we? We've got some schemes that have got permission and are waiting to be built, have we?
No, so that's what they're discussing at this point. So this is the housing delivery team. So they have a program that they're lining up, and they're talking about what they can do with it now. Because we don't know they build it out, so we don't know if we're getting this sum at all in the first place. So they can't rely on this. But when it comes in, they're going to have a mechanism in place to make sure it's spent on actually new build affordable housing.
So sorry, Chair, but so I'm just trying to understand the way these things work. Will this so if the developer decides not to build it and it comes back, will they sell the site with this permission, this change in condition comes with it, or if it comes back with another planning application, even by the same developer, but a different scheme, that could still be. That this would still apply. The affordability element will still apply.
So it runs with the land. So if someone else buys it, they're still subject to this obligation, and they could come in with another application to make variations, and would have to review the viability position at the time. That's always the case. We're always reviewing the viability situation in line with the current financial situation in general.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah, Councillor Stout.
So I just follow on from, I'm just a little, it was my fault for not following what you just said. But this gives permission for an extra 782 square metres. So we've got a bit bigger. The number of homes has stayed at 111, but we've taken out 30 affordable / social housing homes, and all that's been done on the back of the affordability model. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes. So essentially, they've revised the scheme. It is an improved number of 3-bedroom units, and then when they've concluded those revisions, they've fed it back into the viability model, and it's fed back as to how much affordable housing contribution they could provide. So that's what's happened.
I understand that, but we've also given them over 750 extra square metres, and they still couldn't make that work.
Yeah, I get it. And I mean, sorry, Sarah.
It's hard to be.
Just hi-
Normally, I'm sort of fairly sanguine about these things, but this one looks like we've given them a bunch more space. So, and the number of homes hasn't changed, so they've just got bigger. So they're building more bigger residences on the site, and they've squeezed out the affordable to fit them in.
Yeah, you're not missing anything here, Councillor.
I'm not.
That's exactly what's happening. But then it's all about deliverability at the end of the day, and it comes down to the value of the commercial units as they are today, and the professional costs as they are today, and the build costs and the sales values. And it's a very comfortable situation we're currently in with the current financial market. We can capture an uplift through review mechanisms, but I mean, you may be looking at a choice between this or no housing delivery at all, which is the difficulty that we're having. So this is the snapshot in time that we're considering this application. This snapshot in time is not a good one for viability positions. That's something that's confronted the developers as much as we're confronted as well here. So that's the practicalities, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
And we do
accept-
robustly test them, yeah. I just want to offer that reassurance that every time it comes in, we're not just yielding. We're
I
running
understand that.
them through there, yeah.
And do we think that, once again, Councillor Luke has asked this question, but I think it bears repeating, that the 1.2 million they've chucked in will actually be enough to build 30 quality affordable homes?
40 grand each.
That's
No,
my
you
maths.
wouldn't get.
It
I
just
mean,
doesn't happen at that cost.
You wouldn't happen at that cost. No, I can't tell you exactly how many it is, but you're looking at a far lower number than that many. It'd be 13 is probably an optimistic, closer to 13.
Well, they said 22, but it's
Sorry.
from 30 to 22, so 20%, 27% to 20%, but they're not actually in the site.
It's exactly what's happening, Councillor. Yeah. So I don't want to
No,
make
okay.
it look any better than it is.
I just want to add one point to this discussion. It is about the commercial use is on site and it is restricted, and it's added another B8 to that class use, which has impact on the assessment as well. So altogether,
Okay, Chair, it's already commercial. It's already commercial. So taking out all the commercial to build commercial and residential. So that's not really with respect to our officers and the technicalities. I think that's not really an argument that they're having to put more, having to take commercial into account. They don't have to.
Okay. Yep. Councillor Todd? Sorry. Councillor
Yeah,
Todd?
I want to pick up on an answer given to Councillor Lukey. Someone used the words, the word affordability came with the land. What did you mean came with the land? And secondly, what was the original percentage of affordable?
the original percentage when we approved in 2023 was 27%. Yes.
What do you mean when it said it came with, was there some legal prescription that said it had to be used for affordable or not?
Yes. Yes.
Restricted by who?
So it would have been secured within the Section 106 agreement that they had to provide affordable housing on site. That would have been one of the stipulations. So that's what they're trying to vary as part of this.
Normally ask for 40%, I think, don't we? Or that's a London obligation.
That is an aspirational figure in our local plan. That's what we're aiming for across the borough, which we do broadly achieve, but each individual scheme has to go through this viability tested process.
Where do we get our expertise as to what goes on in the market?
So we have a consultant, so we go out to a third party. This is BPS, who have we engage with frequently with these types of applications, and they are experts in matters, and they're impartial. They're a third party that we engage with, not the developers, not the applicants.
Thank you. I can't see any more. Oh yeah, Councillor Assam.
Thank you very much, Chair. Very quickly, the plant room area seems to have decreased quite a bit. Could you please shed some light on that?
Okay. It has been decreased because of changing of the system they use. So it is why that they need just a smaller. And also, it has been assessed by our internal consultants, and they were happy with these changes.
Right. No more questions. I'm going to open for debate. Members, anybody? Yeah, go on, Councillor Luki.
Well, I just think our aspiration is 40% affordable housing. Developers' aspirations are 0% affordable housing, and this is what we end up with, if you like. So we really, you know, after all this time spent on here, and probably also accusation of councillors on previous applications, you know, being cheeky on this, I think it's kind of wasting wasted our time, and we're back to this now. Who knows what else is going to come up with this site? That's what I'm just saying, really, for the record.
Any more comments or proposals? Anybody? It's been approved for. Go on. Anybody? Yeah, go on, Councillor Bori.
Yeah, Chair, it's really regrettable, the lack of affordable, but officers are telling us that's subject to viability, and that's the number they come up with. So it's regrettable, but I'll propose we approve it.
Seconding? Councillor Zala? Seconding it? Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded. I'll take a vote for the proposal. Yep. For the approval, yep. Okay.
Yep.
Against? One. Abstentions? None? Okay. So can you give the figure, please?
Okay, for the record, that was 10 in favour, 1 against, no abstentions.
So the application has been approved. Thank you for your contribution, members. And for the third item, I'm afraid I have to leave, and I'll come back for the rest. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, sure, go on.
Thank you, Chair. Just councillors, very quickly, as councillor, as the chair is leaving for this item, we just need a formal vote for Councillor John Stroop, to be appointed as chair. So,
For this item, yeah.
sorry, just for this item. Yeah.
Are we all happy? Yes?
Great.
John.
Just formalities, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the third agenda item, which is Charlton House, Albany Road, Brentford. Who's leading us off on this one?
Thank you, Chair. This is the sixth item on the agenda. The application site is Charlton House, TW80NG. The Section 73 application is for a variation of consented scheme in 2023. The proposal is to change several conditions of the approved scheme in order to comply with the compulsory requirement of Building Safety Act in respect of fire safety. These amendments proposes minor changes to the consented scheme for a mixed-use development. The number of homes will be increased by 2 from 209 to 211. The housing mix will be changed in this way that the 1 bedroom would be increased, 2 bedroom would be decreased, and the total number of 3 and 4 bedrooms would be the same. Changes to non-residential spaces include minor changes to footprint. These minor changes do not change the commercial use and the number of employment compared to the approved scheme, so it is supported. The impact on transport is only on cycle parking for residential units to comply with London Plan recommendation. Amenity space would be increased by 612 square meter, and more trees will be planted on the site, about 11 trees. Other amendments are included relocation of the existing substation, and also the generator pump will go to the roof level from the ground floor. This slide shows the changes to the layout. The number of amendments are proposed to the approved scheme, which will enable the development to meet the update building regulation while ensuring that the 211 affordable homes and commercial spaces can be delivered as soon as possible. These design amendments are minor in nature, and the quality of design has been retained. This slide shows the 3 blocks on site. The number of the stories of blocks will be the same. However, the height of the blocks will increase by 30 centimeters just to adjust internally and the decking area. This slide shows number of changes on each block. This is the residential layout proposed for this section 73. This is the details of housing mix. This slide shows the proposal changes to the facade. This is the street scene from the high street. This is another CGI showing from Albany Road. This is a CGI showing to the block A. These changes is to the arc and facades. Some other examples of changes to the facades and arc. This is another view to look at the block A and C. This is those amendments that has been occurred on the plans to comply with Building Safety Act. The changes to the elevation is mostly to change to the color of the bricks from green tone to red, which was consulted with the in a public consultation, and it was approved to go from beige to red and different tonality of red. This is the landscape design in the public realm. It would enhance with that 621 area, extra area of green spaces to the landscaping with 11 more trees. This is the details of landscaping showing the playground as well. The proposed scheme would retain the same level of private and public open amenity spaces with a slight increase in, as mentioned above. The residential part of the development is able to reduce carbon emission with this section 106 with another 34 reduction, an increase in UGF from 0.4 to 0.44 by adding those trees and other green spaces. The scheme would be consistent with the objective of the development plan to deliver regeneration and much needed affordable homes and sustainable location with good transport accessibility. So it is comply with the NPPF and also the Hounslow planning policy, so it's recommended for approval.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the officer, please? No, I see no questions. Thank you very much for that. Members will have noted page 105 to 106 itemises all the changes that the officer's just gone through. So I'll open it for debate. Anyone for comment? You can see a hand moving towards a button. Who went first? Councillor Bowring.
Thank you. This is an excellent scheme. It was an excellent scheme. There's been necessary changes. It's got incredible sustainability credentials. It delivers much needed social homes, and I think we should approve it.
Okay, do you want to add anything to that, Councillor Todd? Is that a proposal, Councillor Bowring?
I think other people might have wanted to come in, so...
Oh, sorry, Councillor Luque?
It's just there's very little difference from the previous one. It doesn't even require any preambles, Chair. I'll vote for it.
I'll propose it in that case.
Okay, that's proposed by Councillor Bowring, seconded by Councillor Todd. And can we have a show of hands? We've got the proposal. And that is unanimous, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Unanimous. Everyone's hand was up?
Everyone's hand was up.
No need for the formalities.
Thank you very much for that. If Councillor Garrawell can hear me, come in.
Thank you, John, for taking the item. Okay, next one is addendum report. I think we have all seen that. And item 8 is any other business. I have not been told of any other business. The date for next meeting is 3rd of April. You got any question? Yeah.
Just that we've stopped getting any reports on enforcement and similar. It's been about the 3rd meeting since we'll start getting them again.
I've lost access to my statistics, sorry, Councillor. I think what we'll do is we'll probably send it around independent of this planning committee as well. We'll try and do something like a newsletter. I'll agree the format of it, but yes, I don't have it currently.
Chair, it's good to have it as a public record, and if it's sent round separately, yeah, lovely for us to see it, but as a public record, it's not. So if it goes on an agenda, then it has a greater audience. Depends on who can be bothered to look at the agenda anyway. But it's there if people want to access it. A lot simpler than asking me or another member of the planning committee.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the meeting is closed. Very good. 25 to 9. Thank you.